All right, Nicks and Bruises, we are back. Shout out to the chat. Yo, Black is time. We're back with the Knicks takes on your lunch break, part two with the Queen. We just did a Dope Soul Sports Talk. Peace, Queen. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. This is really helping me gear back up for the season. So is this is nice.
Yes, yes. I wish we started this earlier in the off season, but you know what I mean. Now we got a routine, so we'll
Mhm.
keep this going. Next year as well.
Yep. Sounds
But
good.
what I want to talk about today is Brunson's ascension into superstardom. Um, I mentioned it briefly on the end of your show. How last year Gilbert Arenas was talking about Brunson's not a superstar, and I think most of what he was referring to was not his game, but just his marketability, right? And saying he should be bigger. With what he's doing in New York, doing it in New York.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And I think there was some truth to that. And I think the Knicks and Brunson as well have made a conscious effort to boost his popularity outside of New York, boost his popularity in New York. You know what I mean? And I think they've done a great job. So I kind of want to deep dive into that, break down that. Did you hear those comments from Gilbert Arenas, or do you remember me mentioning them last year at all?
I don't remember um the comments from Gilbert Arenas. I do remember. You mean your comments on this subject or your comments on what Gilbert Arenas said?
Me bringing it up last year, or did you see it at all? From I don't know if you're a avid watcher of Gil's Arenas. I am, so I kind of I watch the show regardless of whether he's speaking on Knicks in general or not. But anytime he mentions something on the Knicks, you know what I mean, I come and bring it to the pods and let people know what he's saying, how they feeling, and get people's reactions to it.
I didn't hear it. I will say this for me. This topic has come up even before Jalen Brunson became a superstar, and some would even question whether he's a superstar now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Superstardom for me was always about on court.
On court.
But I know there are some who also feel like to be a superstar, you have to be recognizable and you have to have, people have to know who you are. Um, I don't quite believe that. But I do feel that last year, with as many national televised games as the Knicks has, particularly in the playoffs, people are beginning to see who Brunson is.
See, I agree with you. I think it's two standards, right? With that superstar. But I have to acknowledge the off the court because even when you or the popularity part, because even when you look at like the all-star votings, right? That's more of a popularity contest than it is about X's and O's, who's doing what on the court. You know what I mean? What's the records? It's a fan vote thing. You know what I mean? So that's why I understand, where he was coming from when he made those comments.
Hmm.
And this is also why I tried to do a mini campaign for
Hmm.
Knicks fans. You know what I mean? Go out there and vote every day. You can vote every day. You know what I mean? Put them votes in. Don't forget. Make it a priority. Make your presence felt as a Knicks fan, because I feel like we have the best fan base in the league. You know what I mean? Or at least, if I want to keep it non-biased, at least a top five fan base in the league. You know what I mean? When it comes to particular teams. And I'll stand on that because we were doing these podcasts, right? When we were bottom feeders. You know what I mean? Hence the name came from what us Knicks fans suffered through with these teams that were unsuccessful, 14 win seasons. So yeah, this fan base is definitely one of the best in the world because we stuck with this team when it was hard to, through the brown paper bags over the face era, and things like that. So I think it came full circle, and it there's two ways to look at it. Sometimes you're not even going to get recognized putting up the numbers you're putting up if you're not being seen. You know what I mean? If you're only being seen through a small portion. But yeah, let's talk about what have you noticed in Brunson as far as, well, let me start. One of the main things I noticed was the podcast, the start of the podcast, right? I thought that was it wasn't for money, right? It wasn't for to me it was just for visibility. Like, even if you look at the structure of the podcast, it's not a basketball podcast, right? It's not like just referencing the league and stories about the league. It's really two friends on a show shooting the shit. You know what I mean? Talk, I can imagine their regular conversations are very similar to their conversations on their podcast. But that was the first thing that I was like, all right, why is he doing this?
Mm.
I think he's doing this to boost his popularity, to boost his visibility. And I liked it. I liked the idea of it. So that was the first thing that I noticed. Is there anything that you noticed that Brunson or the Knicks have done to kind of, first step to boost his popularity? Because the numbers are undeniable.
Right. I mean, I've seen some things the Knicks have done. I'm not sure if that's the specific reason why they're doing it, though. So, the press, the Knicks have been more media friendly, two press conferences in 1 month, with Mikal Bridges' press conference and, Jalen Brunson captaincy. I think they might have even went over the top, you can argue, given um, uh, just how much they haven't dealt with the media in the sense of, the Patrick Ewing video, the New York sports, athletes video. Um, I don't know if it was the Knicks or content creators who put together the video of the Knick players themselves
Mm-hmm.
congratulating him. So yeah, I've definitely noticed the Knicks being more media friendly. Was that, you know, to boost up Brunson, or is that we doing well now? We don't have anything to hide. We're not the butt of the jokes anymore, so we don't have to um hide anymore. I'm not sure what their motivation for it is, but I've definitely noticed that, Brunson, WWE with Tyler Halliburton, being more out there. So yeah, but I will say this: popularity matters when it comes to, you know the all-star team, um even when it comes to coaches voting, narratives and things like that. But I will still hold true that when it comes to being a superstar, you don't have to be popular to be a superstar. Your game should speak. Your game, that the number one thing is your game. But yeah, I do get that popularity does help this other voting, this voting stuff, unfortunately.
Shadow, DJ Shadow, all aboard.
Believe it.
What's going on, brother?
Oh man, I'm happy to be here. I hate to walk in disagreeing with the queen so much right off the bat. You know what I'm saying? But I love her to death, so it's okay. You got to be popular to be a superstar. You got to be popular to be a superstar. Like, part of being a superstar is, you know, people being drawn to you more than just the game, because that means they're buying your jersey. When you are visiting different arenas throughout the country, they're coming to see you. They're not only coming to see you because of your game, they're coming to see you because, you know, um, your antics on the court, or your dance moves when you make a shot, or you know what I mean? Like, as great as as great as Tim Duncan was, the reason why people rate Kobe and other players higher than him, even though they shouldn't be, is because he just wasn't really that popular. Imagine if he had a little more personality, a little bit more vibe, and was doing some of the things that Brunson and my guy Hart are doing right now, like just these things, would have made him probably like top 5, top 4 amongst all players ever. But because of his lack of popularity, he's barely in the top 10 to a lot of people.
How's that working out for the Joker though?
It's working out great for the Joker because he has an amazing personality. He not only does he like, he also doesn't play quote unquote boring. You know what I mean? He doesn't play boring. He makes extremely flashy plays. He makes clutch shots. He has a great sense of humor. LeBron steps out of bounds and he puts the ball on him. Like little small things like that are the things that makes. See, the thing is, you have to be the average person that says, you know what? I'm not really a basketball fan, but I like that Kobe Bryant guy. I'm not really a basketball fan, but that Dennis Rodman, he's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, you have to at least has to be something to be a draw to you about the person. And like, respectfully, Brunson's game could fall under the quote unquote boring category because the moves, the herky, the jerky. He doesn't really jump really high. He's not really flashy, but he's clutch. And now he's got the podcast going, and you see him in the podcast. Okay, so the flashiness or the lack thereof on the court of maybe quote unquote personality of a draw, he's giving it to you on the podcast, so you're connecting with him in a different kind of way. And I think it's going to be this podcast thing that he started that puts him in a whole different category in terms of popularity. And I remember even saying quite a while ago, I'm surprised the Knicks are even letting these guys do this. But I think to your point, Steph, what I did agree with you is that as the team, or maybe it was Tone, that as the team is more successful, then you can allow for some out of the box stuff. Maybe this is the World Wide West impact. Who knows? But either way, I think it's great for Brunson. I think it's great for the team. And it's great for, especially a guy that's taking less on a deal to set him up to get some money other places because you're allowing him to expand his brand and not putting a cap on what he can and can't do with the podcast.
And I think for part of me, first off, let me let you know I am having some technical difficulties, so my earphone is going in and out. I didn't hear everything you said, Shuttle. But one thing that I do want to put emphasis on is, by all means, I don't think Shuttle or I was saying even then that Brunson wasn't a superstar. It's really about the will he get that consensus throughout the league? You know what I mean? And sometimes it's harder for guys to be recognized when they're not a personality that's out there. You know what I mean? When they're not visibly doing things outside of the sport, when they're not playing the sport above the rim, or what I mean, the flashy passes. You know what I mean? So those things, those give you a head start. You know what I mean? Those things will give you a boost in popularity. You know what I mean? And I heard a portion of you mentioning Tim Duncan, and I think that would be a prime example of a guy. Or you could even throw a Kawhi Leonard out there in a sense of guys who didn't have that outward personality that people gravitated to. They kind of were considered bland, and that may have affected ultimately where they end up on some rankings. You know what I mean? Through no fault of their own, or whether I don't think it's fair.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
exactly
think,
what I'm saying. I mean, I understand the whole popularity thing. I understand, but to me, to say that somebody's not a superstar because they're not popular, I just can't. I just can't get with that. But I understand how popularity drives narratives. I understand how popularity will can get you more all-star votes. I understand, I understand all of that. But to say that somebody is not a superstar because they're not popular, yeah, that's that's hard. But I get the popularity stuff. It definitely helps in other in other areas for sure.
but what I'm noticing is a conscious effort. You know what I mean? From from Brunson from the Knicks to kind of boost to bring that popularity up to where his game is, because his game is there. And I like some of the things you mentioned, Queen, in the WWE. Excuse me. Appearance, with Halliburton, even that rivalry in itself, you know what I mean, and putting a spotlight on that, I think that is going to help build not only Halliburton's popularity, which I think you can argue he was there in the popularity side before Brunson because of some of the flashiness in the passing, right? And things of that nature. So I think it's bringing Brunson's level up. The recent quote is him not ruling out an actual match against Halliburton, which I don't think the NBA nor the Knicks nor the Pacers will even allow it. But you know what I mean? Just to have that floating out there, right, as an idea, I think that helps when they match up in the season, in the regular season, let alone a playoff matchup moving forward. I think the captaincy, right? This is,
Yeah.
I don't want to call it overblown, but you know,
It was a
yeah,
lot.
Over the top.
It
It
was
was
a lot. It was a
they,
lot.
they definitely put extra sauce on it. You know what I mean? They
yeah,
put
right.
It was
put
a
some
lot.
extra.
It was definitely a lot. I'm like, yo, you supposed to just give it to him, and the first home game you announce it, and the crowd goes crazy. Like that would have been enough. We had to,
You know,
yeah.
But maybe this is to their listen. This is where I will agree with Shuttle. And I don't know if this was his point. I don't think this is his point. So I'll just make it separately. Even though I don't think you need popularity to be a superstar, I do see how lack of popularity can impact you and can impact the franchise and can impact you getting your due and can impact people recognizing who you are and what you do. Um, Brunson, because of the change in narrative, was the only reason why he was number 5 in MVP voting. Because heading up to it, people kept saying, "How can you have a top 10 list without Brunson? How can you?" And that became so big that you then notice that those lists was changing a little bit. So narrative is important. I'm not underestimating that at all. And for Brunson to get his due, yeah, first of all, the Knicks need to win. He needs to be in the spotlight, come through in the spotlight. And these other things outside of basketball does help. I'm not denying that.
um, even now, I don't think this was Brunson. I don't think this was the Knicks. But even the way it was spoken upon him, really all he did was sign for the max that he was able to sign for in this moment, right? But even the way that has been put out there as, oh, he left all this money on the table, and I mean, let's keep it 100, right? He did the same exact thing Julius Randle did. The same as you know what I mean. He took the max money that was available for him at this moment,
Under
and
CBA though, under a
yes,
different CBA, so that does make it a little different.
but my point is the money that they saying he left on the table wasn't on the table yet, right?
Right. Right.
Like he would have had to wait a year for
Right.
that 113 million to be available.
and risk
But
getting hurt,
And
or
risk.
maybe
and risk,
it may
listen,
lose it all.
that is all true, but a lot of the people didn't put all the nuances behind the story of it's like, oh, like even the way some athletes speak. Oh, I wouldn't have done it. I couldn't have done it. You know what I mean? Like I don't think they're living in real time. You know what I mean? They're looking at it from that narrative of, am I going to take $113 million less to help my team, or am I going to take that 113 million to help myself? And I don't think they're looking at the true nuances behind it. But again, I'm not mad at the narrative. I like it. I think all these things are going to help propel Brunson to get his just due of what he deserved based off of how he has performed.
Right.
And you know what I mean? So I'm loving it. I'm just watching it from different angles. Like, okay, yeah, he's about to ascend. Like, there's not going to be any guys that could really argue against him being a superstar, because not only is his popularity rising, you know what I mean, but his game is top tier. Is up there with the best of the best. And not for nothing, you know what I mean? This is gonna be another podcast down the line. But Randall's game and performance is up there with the best of the best as well. You know what I mean? But that's another podcast, another show, another
Yeah.
day for us to talk about. Right now, we're gonna
I
focus on
definitely,
Brunson.
I got to hit you on the sideline with an idea I had about that because I was thinking about something like that too.
we'll, we'll talk about it. But any other things that you think Brunson can do to boost his popularity? I mean, right now, I think it's to the point where now it's just about continuing to perform at the level that we know he's capable of performing. I think the eyes are on him. He got that captaincy. You know what I mean? The videos spread around throughout the league. Um, and I've heard people ask, like, you know, is this a big thing, like, from team to team, or is it just a Knicks thing? You know what I mean? Like, because I've never really seen videos of somebody, whether it's the Knicks in the past. Lance Thomas definitely didn't get no no tribute video based off getting the captaincy. We discussed it on Sim's show, you know what I mean, at the time, and the significance of it, and did he deserve it? You know what I mean? Because that was a big question. But yeah, this has been great for Brunson. But anything you want to add on that particular portion of it? Then I'll look through the chat and see what they saying about it as well.
Well, to your initial question, like what can he do? What else can be done? I don't think there's anything that could be done before the season starts, obviously. And when the season starts, like he needs to, like, to me, to be a superstar, he needs to be at the playoff level, Philadelphia playoff level, for the majority of the season to be a superstar. For me, you have star and you have superstar. To me, the stars are, um the stars can be what Queen was saying, where, you know, you're 25 and 12 assists, you're 25 and 12 rebounds, but the people don't really like you. You're not a highlight reel. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like you got a good game, but you're not really a big draw when you go from arena to arena, that kind of thing. But if you're a coach, if you're a GM, if you're a player in the league, like, nah, that guy gets buckets. Nah, that guy's a hard stop. Nah, that guy plays some great defense. You know, to me, that puts you in the star category. Now, the way Brunson played against Philly was like, oh my God, yo, this kid is ill. I got to go see this guy. So for him to be a superstar, to me, he has to play at that level. And you know, I mean, he did it in the playoffs, so I don't see why he couldn't do it. The only thing I think that potentially holds him back from being that kind of level is that, you know, if you have a healthy Randall, you got Bridges and a healthy OG, you got such high caliber players across the board so much that, you know, as much may not be needed. But if he starts hitting them clutch shots like he did his first season, you know, he had that run where he was just hitting, you know, game winners, game winners. I mean, that's another way to propel yourself into superstar status, by being super duper clutch. So, yeah, I think it's one or two of those things. And for those of us in New York, we got to get past the second round and got to get to the Eastern Conference Finals at minimum. And you need to play well, and that also can potentially put him into that next tier, you know, where we look at him at a higher point.
Um, I
Okay.
just want to shout out. I don't know how to say your name, so I'm gonna say ABY and just break it down. He says, would you consider Joker as popular? No, most people will walk right past him. The thing about Joker is he has a
Outside
country
of
behind him.
outside of Denver.
Denver, but he has a country of support behind him, which you know what I mean. So again, when we talk about that, like popularity
But
and all, no, I'm not saying he don't deserve. First of all, he is a superstar. He
he
does
has a
deserve it,
country behind him because that's what countries do. You know what I mean? That's what
hmm
countries do. They follow their guy. You
and
know
they're
what I mean?
supposed to.
Right. They're supposed to. But if he didn't have a country behind him, he would not be that popular outside of
But
Denver and outside of known casuals.
we
Outside
can't. That's
casuals wouldn't be. That's what I'm
that's
That's
talking
fair. That's
that's,
fair.
that's
But that's to the point of what you know what I mean of what I'm saying. Like you gotta have something. Like even with him, I can see a boost in like with the corny commercials, right? But it's highlighting who he is and his personality, right? So putting those commercials out with him and his teammate with the donkey and you know what I mean, like
hold on. Those
it's
commercials are hilarious to
they
me.
they are to me as well. But to me, that's somebody
But the point
making a conscious
he's
effort
a
to
superstar.
boost his popularity in the states outside of Denver.
Correct. But the point is he's a superstar, even if casuals don't. That's my
100.
point. He's still
Yeah.
a superstar, even if casuals don't um don't recognize him. But going back to what Brunson needs, the question is you're talking about what Brunson needs to be more popular or what he needs to be a superstar.
I mean, I think he's there when it comes to production. But if there's something you think he can add that can elevate him, by all means. But my focus was on the popularity part
Oh,
outside of what I mean, the casuals. But so you can answer both if you have
yeah.
an answer for
I
both.
mean, I think for popularity, keep winning. Keep winning in New York. I think keep getting up, coming up big in these nationally televised games. Keep
Mhm.
coming up big. The deeper the Knicks go um, into the playoffs. But for casuals, I mean, for his popularity to grow for casuals, I mean, I guess a billboard, some more commercials, um, you know, uh, continue the podcast, right? That'll help his popularity amongst casuals. Um, in terms of, in my opinion, Brunson's a superstar already. People talk to Embiid as a superstar. Embiid's never been out the second round. Embiid was considered a superstar well before he was voted MVP. Um, so what I want to see from Brunson is the lights are going to get brighter
Mm-hmm.
the further the Knicks go into the playoffs. This will be his first time when we do get there. Can he continue to raise his level of play as the lights get brighter and brighter? Right? That's going to be the question for him. If I would put money on it because I've seen him. It hasn't been that bright, but it's gotten brighter and brighter, and he's still been able to, maintain his level of play, even increase his level of play. But it's going to get even more bright,
Mm-hmm.
right? And can he maintain and even increase his level of play? Because that's what the best do. That's what Kobe Bryant done. That's what Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. It was like another day in the park, and they was in the finals.
I gotta say stuff. Um, Even though, yeah, of course, it's gonna be brighter in the playoffs, but considering the run that the team had in the playoffs this year, and then his injury, the injuries, and it's like, man, this team could have made it to the next round. Well, we could have beat Boston, could have went to the finals. With all of that, plus the trade Bridges, as far as I'm concerned, the lights is on right now. The lights are on
Yeah.
from game one
Mm-hmm.
because this team can't with all the hype, with all the trade, the 5 picks, like this team's not in a position to be off to a slow start.
Yeah.
And the lights are bright. That you're the captain of the team. You got the podcast. Expectations now probably more than any season for the Knicks since '94. You know what I'm saying? So the lights are on.
Yeah. We could get out to a slow start with Mitch and Randall not being healthy, even if Brunson is playing well.
Potentially, we'll see. Shout out to J Tap. He says if Brunson stayed in Dallas, there's no way he's an all-star. Um, I don't know that for sure. I think, and this is something I've said probably 5 years ago on Sim Show. One of the main ways for anybody to ascend into superstardom, or actually, my quote was, "I don't think you can become a superstar until you perform in the playoffs," and I think that's where the ascension comes from. Like you could be a star in the regular season, you know what I mean, or be a star and not make the playoffs. But I don't think you could be considered a superstar until you've already made that playoffs, and then that's where you get that, you know what I mean, you get that badge from your based off of how you perform in those moments. And then I say that to say Brunson had his performance in the playoffs in Dallas, you know what I mean, when Luka sat, and then continued to perform, you know, as Luka um returned in that series and made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals. I think that was the start of, in his case, maybe moving into stardom, right? But I say all that to say there's also two levels of stars and superstars, in the sense that some guys are that coming into the league, right? Some guys are that from college going into the league, and that's where they start their career with that monarch on them as a star. Some guys, and Brunson is an example of this, where is less guys like this, you know what I mean, that come in. Jokic is an example of this. You know what I mean, we're talking about second round picks that ascend, that are self-made, that build their way into stardom. To me, that's the harder course. You know what I mean? It's more hurdles for you to jump over to reach that. Not just on the court. I mean, to get on the court, right? Like to get the opportunity to kind of raise your level to become that. So again, this is all kudos to Brunson for being one of those few individuals in the history of the league, right? To kind of come in here and build your stardom and do it your way. You know what I mean? Like these labels weren't on him coming into the league. Um,
Sure.
I think there's a argument even back in Villanova. You know what I mean? Like, was he he was the leader, but other guys around him had those moments, right? Those and even in the draft, they got drafted ahead of him. You know what I mean? Like, so he was the leader on the floor, being the point guard, but he didn't get the highest of accolades and you know what I mean, those labels as a star wasn't put on him in college. You know what I mean, coming into the draft. So it was a harder road for him. So you got to appreciate that. But those hurdles have been there throughout his tenure. You know what I mean? And even before that, you know, he talks about having to grind in high school to boost his level to reach Mr. You know what I mean, Mr. Basketball, I think it is in Chicago, but he wasn't highly recruited, all these things. So it's a grind for certain guys, and certain guys, I'm not saying it's given to him, but it was acknowledged from the beginning. Oh, he's a star. You know what I mean? So
I'm looking at the list of 2023 All Stars, right? And you see over 75% of them are all lottery picks. To your point, you know, Tatum, Luka, Halliburton, Zion, you know, Steph Curry, Embiid, SGA, Laurie Markkinen, Kyrie, number one pick, you know. So you got a lot of Jaylen Brown, top pick. So yeah, the majority of guys, to your point, they come in highly touted, and there's high expectations, you know, which I'm gonna digress here, which is why we got so upset with some of them other picks. Knox, Nilakina. All right. I couldn't go past that without letting that out. Yeah, man, because you get these lottery picks, and these are the expectations. And then you get people holding on to these players like, no, he's an eighth pick, he can do it. And we see what happens.
Well, yeah,
Definitely.
but shout out to the grind and the road. You know what I mean, that Brunson has had to take to get to this level, because you know what I mean, that's a feat in itself.
No doubt.
That's why I wanted to look it up. It's like, wow, okay, yeah, that sounds right. What you're saying, Tone. Like, this is absolutely the exception and not the norm. Let me just take a quick look and see, what the numbers look like. So yeah, it's probably closer to like 80-85% of like all lottery picks, and at least top 15, 20. And so you have higher expectations, but a guy like him or Joker coming from the second round to become MVPs and all stars is definitely something to show that salute to.
Yeah, shout out to the chat. Shout out to HP Carlos from Portugal. Always checking in. Appreciate you.
And shout out to the Prince Bun.
Oh my God.
He's a name you couldn't pronounce. That's what he said. It's the Prince Bun Tone.
Oh, here the Prince, man. Where you been at? My guy. Throwback. He know about the nicks and bruises we was going through.
He said he knocked out of this. Remember, he was high on Knox. He was high on Knox.
My guy, I was too. We was standing. We was holding Knox down for a long time.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, man. So the team went from the Kentucky Wildcat Knicks to the Villanova Wildcat Knicks.
Yeah, he was hooked up to the wrong Wildcats when we started.
To the wrong Wildcats. So they went from one team to another team. So they got it right.
And by no means are we saying Randall got to go.
No, definitely not.
If anything, we could keep pulling from the right. You know what I mean, all the Wildcats, and just keep the right ones around. But yeah, shout out to the Prince, my guy. I want to talk about the schedule real quick. Not really the whole schedule, but just the first 10 games or so. Obviously, we got Boston first
on ceremony night.
Hopefully, we could be.
I love it.
Spoiler.
I love it, yo. I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it, but shout to Knicks Nation making that trip. If you tailgating, you inside the arena, whatever you do, however you do it, salute to y'all, because man, that's a game to get up there and make some noise.
Yeah.
We're thinking about it too. So
them tickets not sold out already?
They expensive. I tell you that. Oh, they super expensive. They looking like playoff prices, to be honest.
I would expect it.
So I don't know if we're gonna pull it together or not. And unfortunately, I can't even find the full schedule. I had it up.
I have it.
We got Indiana next, right? That's our first home opener. Mm-hmm. It's another tough one, right? But I think it's obviously winnable. Revenge game. Who's after that? I know we got Miami in that first 10.
Yeah, I'm gonna read it off to you right now. Boston, Indiana. Well, Boston, home versus Indiana and Cleveland, at Miami, at Detroit, at Houston, at Atlanta, home against Milwaukee, at Indiana, at Philadelphia. So 7 of the first 10
on the road.
Are on the road, and the 3 at home are against Indiana, Cleveland, and Milwaukee.
Yeah, that's a pretty tough stretch, right? To start the season. Definitely not a cakewalk. But I do think
the target's on your back though. Like, listen, like I've seen a few people talking about this. It's like, yo, what you thought it was going to be? Like easy street. Yo, this is why, even though the team won 50 games last year, he made a few moves. I'm not like at like 60 wins, I'm like at like 53, 54, maybe 55, 56 if Mitch stays very, very healthy. You know what I mean? But like, yo, now you got the target on your back. Like now you want to be good. Well, this is what happens when you're good. You're gonna get the best from every team every night, especially these teams in the East, like the Magic, the Pacers, and Philly and the Heat. Like, yo, you're gonna get the best from these guys, and it's not gonna be no cakewalk. And if you're gonna win, you want to be a number one seed, a number two seed, three seed. Well, you're gonna have to go 7-3 through a tough stretch like this.
Mm.
I wasn't even ready for predictions yet.
No,
Yeah. Go ahead.
it's not a prediction. It's not a prediction, but I'm saying if you want to be an elite team, you have to have a tough stretch, and you have to 6-4, 7-3 when you have like
Those
basically
stretches.
a 10 game stretch of all playoff caliber teams. That like I expect almost every team on that list to make the playoffs,
Yeah, except for Detroit.
except for Detroit.
And I agree. And honestly, I like the tough schedule out the gate. I like to be tested. I want us to be tested from jump, right? Motions riding high, game one for Boston, right? I mean, that could go either way. You know what I mean? They could be so caught up in their moment that it takes them a quarter to kind of focus on the game. But for us, I think that should be motivation, right? We watching these guys get their ring. That's something we aspire to do. We gonna be ready, you know what I mean, drooling to get the game started and pounce on them early. But that's a test. You know what I mean? Indiana knocked us off at home. Now they back at our home floor. That's the last memory we have of playing basketball. Us losing at home.
Yeah.
Like let's go get that. Let's go get that. But I like that tough schedule to start, especially if we could do like you're saying and win 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10, because one, the schedule does get a lot easier after the 10-game stretch. That's the first reason. But I aspire for 60 wins. You know what I mean? I aspire to push for 60 wins at the very least. Not saying that it's a given or it's a guarantee, but that's what I want. I want that home court advantage. I want it throughout the at least throughout the Eastern Conference. You know what I mean? Playoffs. I think that'll be big for us. And mainly if we're healthy, I think you know what I mean, that becomes an even bigger advantage. But I think part of the reason we were able to sustain and win the games we won was that home court advantage. You know what I mean? That 2 seed, I think that rejuvenated this team coming in undermanned. You know what I mean? So I think that could help us moving forward.
Yeah, the only thing about 60 wins, which would be great, is this Eastern Conference is
It's tough.
it's tough. Even the teams that's going to be in the play-in are not going to be pushovers. You know, so yeah, this is going to be exciting.
Philly just got a little bit better. They finally got a power forward. You know what I mean? Not saying this guy can, handle Randall or go toe to toe, but that's one of the advantages that I felt like we had against Philly. Moving forward, they had nobody to guard us. They just grabbed the power forward from France that just won the silver.
You know how you gotta describe him? The guy that banged it on Bron.
Yeah, him.
You see what I'm saying? So he's coming in with crazy popularity. Got the Ben Wallace hairstyle. I mean, he's coming in looking like, excitement. So, but them tickets, I just looked them up. Ooh, them tickets. Yeah, you ain't lying. They looking like conference finals prices. So
maybe we'll do a watch party.
Yeah. You gotta do something. You gotta do something.
Oh, it's on a Tuesday.
October 22nd. Nah, this is game one. Steph, come on now. Don't give me that Tuesday talk. You're still young, Steph. You can do it.
Yeah, we could do it. We could do it.
Oh man.
And then that home opener is gonna be raucous with Indiana definitely looking forward to that. They haven't made a lot of changes on their team, so they're just banking on
Growth.
internal growth, basically. Um, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Tone is frozen, so it's gonna take him some time to get back to us. Did you get a chance to look at the full schedule?
I took a quick peek before I
Okay.
got it up. Now I'm looking at it right now as we talk.
Yeah. So after that 10-game stretch, I mean, I don't know if you want to consider it breathing room, because even though Brooklyn is not looked at as being very good, they're a crosstown rival, so they're going to show up with
They're
their
gonna
best kid.
show up and do what?
Well, they're gonna give us what they have. We ain't catching them sleeping. I'm not saying we can't win, but what I'm saying is that's a easier stretch. Chicago, Brooklyn, home and away, then Washington before we go on that 5-game West Coast stretch at Phoenix, Utah, Denver, Dallas, and then Charlotte. Not on the West Coast, but the last trip on that
Yeah.
away swing before we come back home.
Then you got New Orleans. Like, I mean, I didn't go through it and do like
Yeah.
win loss, win loss. I didn't do
Mhm.
anything like that. But yeah, to your point, there is some breathing room a little after the first 10 games. It kind of balances it out. It's not
Mhm.
as top heavy, if you will, but
Right.
but when you're projected to be one of the top teams in the league, you got one of the superstar players in the league. Like this is what comes with the territory.
No doubt. Yeah. Oh yeah. No doubt about it. Any concern about Randall and Mitch potentially not being ready for training camp?
Mitch definitely more so than Randall.
Yeah.
Mitch came back at the end of the playoffs, so I don't I don't think that anything happened in the off season that should really, like, did he have a surgery or something that is
He had a minor surgery to the ankle. He hasn't been cleared yet for full contacts. But it should happen soon. And he very well may be ready. But I know Ian Begley report that he might not.
be ready for the start of training camp? I did see that. That was like a week or two ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, obviously, with the lack of depth at center, you know, there's already concern, even if he was 100% healthy,
Right.
coupled with his injury history. So, you're absolutely concerned already off the rip. So,
Yeah.
ideally, in the ideal world, Mitch is ready. We don't want to don't over rush him.
Right.
Don't
Right.
over rush him,
Right.
and hopefully, this guy from the summer league, the rookie Huck Porty, is able to come in and bring some energy, some aggressiveness, and bring some of that tenacity. That's what I think he can offer. To the team. And Dimitro's cool. I'm not saying it's not a possibility for him too, but I think Huck Porty is more of what's needed. In the center spot.
Wow. You think now he's on a 2-way contract. You think he gets anywhere near the rotation in his first season?
I think that with the games that Mitch has proven he'll miss, if a trade doesn't happen, that you're talking about potentially just playing Sims and Precious,
Or
and
small ball. Or small ball.
I just think that the small ball will happen in a very small percentage. And it's just not something that we can expect the coaches to rely on, nor expect the players to excel at for long stretches of time. So
But why do you don't think they can excel at it? You're not a believer that OG can guard fives?
I just think that in short stretches, it's okay. Let's do what we got to do. You get to the playoffs, all right, cool. All hands on deck.
Right.
But for an entire season, you know what I mean? Like he's already also another injury concern, right? So
Yeah.
I don't want to push him to the limit guarding centers when I'm worried about his injuries. Matter of factly, I'm trying to manage his minutes, not give him minutes of guarding centers when we don't need to.
Right. But I mean, I'm talking about like 5 out centers, KP, Miles Turner. Um, we don't really have a lot of back to the basket bang you centers other than Embiid. I could be missing some. Um, Jared Allen, but he's not
Much of
much
a
of an
threat.
offensive threat. I think we might be able to get away with it. And the only reason I'm saying it, DJ Shuttle, like I'm the opposite. I feel like Tibbs has to commit to a small ball lineup every game because I just feel like we're not going to be able to.
Playing Precious is a small ball lineup
But see, Precious don't have that skill set though.
on
See,
defense.
on offense, he
Yeah,
doesn't have the skill set on offense.
but
So it's just like playing Mitch on offense. I
no,
just feel like,
Precious is better than Mitch on offense, not on defense, but on offense.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at
But
least he
what I'm
looks into
saying is,
basket.
guys don't have to guard him, so he presents the same.
Yeah, it's
The
similar.
same.
I get what you're saying,
They don't
but
have to guard him.
but with all the offensive weapons at every other position, just like with Mitch starting, like, are you really concerned that he's not a huge offensive threat when you're already going to be starting Mitch, who's even less of a threat?
I think both of them. That's the concern I have with the center position: Sims, Mitch, and um, Precious. I think we'll be able to get away with it in the regular season. I think come the playoffs, though, their guy is going to be roaming, making it difficult for Randall, Brunson, whoever happens to be hot. And when you go 5 out and you have all 5 players who can do something with the ball, that's going to keep every defensive player occupied. And then it also opens up our offense because right now with Mitch, Sims, and Achua, I don't know if we're going to be able to take advantage of backdoor cuts
Right.
and things of that sort. Now, don't get me wrong, we're still going to be good offensively. We're just going to have to do it in a different way. Probably won't be as pretty and as flowing as it was with iHeart, but we still going to make it happen. Because remember, Brunson and Randall had great seasons with Mitchell and
no OG.
no, Richard, what's his name? Who was traded for OG, RJ Barrett. Talking about a cramped lane, and they still was able to make it work. So don't get me wrong, they will. I just think when we get to the playoffs, it could be more of an issue.
You're on mute, Tone.
I said appreciate you guys holding it down for me,
Yeah, yeah.
and shout out to StreamYard. You know what I mean for staying up. It's a storm, so my power just went out. Then my computer had to reboot.
That's what was happening to me. Where you at?
and then my computer want to do all the updates when it restarts automatically. So, pardon me. Shout out to Space Ghost. He says, how does everyone feel about Randall and Mitch possibly not being available to start the season? Both of them still nursing surgeries. It may take longer for them to be available. Catastrophic. This is the first thing that popped into my head. I mean, the reports are Randall, if not ready by training camp, should be ready and available game 1. So I'm banking on that. Mitchell Robinson is another storyline. We know he usually takes a little bit of time to recover, especially reoccurring injury, the same injury. You know what I mean? Like we know it's gonna take some time. Yeah, man. I don't know. I, we need both those guys. The one thing I will say, if Mitchell Robinson is not available to start the season, the one plus that I will say is that we get a jump start on seeing what this small ball looks like, seeing how who looks better with whom, seeing which way we go from, like, do we start Randall and pressure. I mean, do we start Randall, OG, Hart? You know what I mean, and something like that to start like as starters, or do we see Precious start at the five or Sims start at the five? I mean, those would be the big question marks for me. But we'll get a jump start on it if Mitchell Robinson's not healthy and kind of maybe see where what works, what doesn't, what we could tweak early on. Because I do have some thoughts that Tibbs may be stubborn in the beginning. You know what I mean? And even though it's by necessity that we will see some more small ball, um, that would be the only plus is maybe we get a jump start on it and see what works early. What say you guys?
We were just talking about it.
Oh,
I know Shuttle. Maybe he want to expand on it. He's not feeling the small ball lineup.
Well, no, it's yeah, a little bit of the opposite actually. I think that small ball helps, and I think that in spurts, I absolutely would like to see it. I think there are matchups where hopefully it's Randall guarding those centers though, and not OG, as you were suggesting. Like, I'd rather Randall, guarding Miles Turner and Jared Allen versus OG. I'm just worried about OG, getting hurt.
Hmm.
And I don't know. To me, Sims is a power forward and Precious is a power forward. So when they're playing, I feel like it's not the ultimate small ball lineup, but to me, those are power forwards playing center anyway. So it is a faction of a small ball, but our optimal lineup with Dante, coming in and one of those guys coming out, and just seeing what the matchups are. I mean, yeah, like you said, Steph. I hope that they do commit. Like you said, Tone. If Mitch is out at the beginning, great. It gives an opportunity to try it out, a little bit, and it's not like the days of the past where you had centers down low, posting up, the majority of their field goal attempts. A lot of people fouls are shooting 3-pointers, and my concern definitely is going to be rebounding. It's like there has to be an aggressive effort, to rebound, and OG's got to commit, Bridges has to commit, Randall has to commit. When Josh Hart is not out there.
Right.
So yeah, that will be my biggest concern: rebounding and shot blocking.
two
Oh,
things. That
but
that's why I put
well,
the
no, OG
emphasis.
got blocked.
That's why I put the emphasis on Josh Hart when I answered your question on the show earlier, Queen, when I was saying like that dynamic that he brings, the rebounding, right? That's something that we're gonna have to. I mean, granted, yeah, we need to ask OG to improve there. We gotta ask Randall to focus there. You know what I mean? But this is something that we know we're getting from Josh Hart night in, night out. So he, plug him in that situation, and that's something you're getting from him, right? And it's gonna help. Couple things that you mentioned, Shuttle, that I kind of been thinking about because I always thought about maybe OG guarding the fives, but I do like the idea. I think OG is better when he's a roam defender and a help defender. So if he's helping to at that four spot and then sliding to help against the centers, I think that can be just as effective and maybe take some of that pressure off of OG guarding a bigger guy all night long. But there's also that dynamic of Randall coming back from that soldier surgery and then having to bang with fives all night long as well. So it's you know what I mean. It's almost pick your poison in that aspect because maybe 3 months in when we know Randall, there's no lingering effects from that surgery. But do we really want him banging with what I mean? Those big centers early on
It's
as well.
just we're talking about. Like he wouldn't have to bang with KP. He wouldn't have to bang with Miles Turner. He wouldn't have to bang with Jared Allen, other than to keep him off the
The
boards.
boards.
Who's the center for Orlando? If it's Wendell Carter,
Carter.
I think he'll be okay. I think Embiid is going to be a problem.
Yeah, I mean he's the main guy I was thinking about, because especially because it was like, yeah, I like what OG did guarding Embiid, but that was always in spurts, right? We that wasn't like, oh, we need him, we need you there to start the game, and that's your matchup. So again, it kind of does, as much as we like these guys and what their ability is. It's a different dynamic when we're talking about starting the game on Embiid, right? And that's your matchup throughout the game. But to your point, Queen, there's only one Embiid, right? Who's the next best center that bangs? Maybe Bam a little bit, even though he's expanding his game more and more. Especially in the East. Who else is?
Indiana, we did Cleveland, we did Miami, Detroit, maybe with Duran,
Jaren?
Atlanta, Capella, Milwaukee, Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez kind of plays out, but in a smaller matchup, he can take it down in the post and try to take advantage of it. Chicago, we have
Vucevic
still. Brooklyn, what's the skinny thing?
Claxton.
I think we'll be okay there. Washington also has the big center from was it New Orleans? Who went to Washington?
Oh, yes. The other Vucevic. Valanciunas. Okay, one of them names.
Yeah, he's there. And then in Charlotte, you have Mark Williams, who's pretty big. Mark Williams and Nick Richards backing him up. New Orleans doesn't have New Orleans is West Coast.
So
then Toronto has what's his name again?
Guy from the Spurs, right?
Portal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Porty. Yeah, he's an in and out guy. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's like the type of thing where you want to start Randall at center,
right,
and bring in Hart or Dante into the lineup if Mitch is not ready game one. Mm-hmm. But I think there's definitely room to to put whoever is the best matchup, and I think it's really just going to need to be on a game-to-game basis, because it's not, you can't look only at the centers. It's also, who are their power forwards, who are their small forwards, and that collectively what's looking like the best matchup. So, Tibbs, you got to earn your money here, man, and you got to look at a game-by-game basis and look at those scouting reports, look at, who they excel against, what type of players they excel against, what type of defenders give them more difficulties. And then based on that type of homework and intel, you put the best matchups against them from your alternate lineups.
Yeah.
Shout out to DK EJ21. He says the vertical centers will kill us in the small ball lineup. Randall isn't long enough. I could see that. So it may not just be about guys who bang in the post, but those vertical threats, those lob threats, that could be a issue for us in the small ball lineups.
The lobs usually come on rotations, though. Somebody gets into the lane, so now Randall has to step up, then the guy gets behind. I mean, that's going to happen
regardless, right?
Regardless.
That's true. But even with a guy like Hartenstein, and I mean, OG's capable as well. We've seen these guys because of their size or verticality be able to neutralize lob threats. You know what I mean? Smacking the ball away, like blocking the lob away.
Oh, you mean meeting them at the rim?
Yeah.
No, there will be none of that. Yeah, with the small, there will no meeting them at the rim. No. So, but listen, with a small ball lineup, you have to also keep in mind what we're doing on the other end as well. So, we're going to make it hard for the defense as well. So we're going to get ours too. And it comes down to, are we getting more than we're giving up? Not that you're not going to give something up, but are you getting more on the offensive end than you're giving up on the defensive end?
Or look at it from a defensive end. Are we putting so much damage on the perimeter with the wing defense that it's neutralizing some of the penetration to the point where the lob threats aren't aren't that valuable.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Right.
I think we can sustain it. I think we can sustain it. You were gonna say something, Shuttle?
Well, when you had stepped away for a moment, I had mentioned Mr. Huck Porty as a potential uh, player. I think his defensiveness and his defensive ability, his aggressiveness, his height. He's at least a legit 6'11". I think that if Mitch is out, I think he's going to surprise some people when he gets on the court.
I hope you're
I
right.
can see that. I really feel like this is the last thing I want to talk about, and let us get out of here. I think we have a lot of guys on the back end of our depth chart that have potential to really come in and fill roles. Hopefully we you know what I mean, we don't go through the injuries to the point where we need these guys at all. But I'm very comfortable, especially in the defensive ability of guys like Huck Porty. Um, what's the latest guy we got? Now I'm drawing a blank. I've been talking about him.
Okiki. That's if he makes
Okiki,
the roster.
yeah,
Yeah,
Okiki.
right.
Yes, Okiki. Or even if he ends up in that in our you know what I mean in our Westchester team, I think that's still he'll still have close enough. We'll have a close enough view on him that if we need to move some things around and bring them up, you know what I mean, we could do that as well.
There's
Because I
there's
think that's the idea. Say it
there's no
again.
limit. I mean, he's played in the NBA a few seasons, but it doesn't matter. You could be in the G League regardless of how many NBA seasons you've played.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Yep. Um. Yeah. I mean, but his defensive two-way ability, I think fits right alongside. You know what I mean with a young guy that could potentially come in and fill a role if need be down the line. Um.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
I like what we're doing on the back end of our roster too.
Yeah. Because that's a part of depth. Depth is not always the second team. Depth is also those players who are out of the rotation that can step into the rotation if someone gets hurt. So if Campaign and Kolick is out of the rotation, um, somebody gets hurt and they're stepping in, I feel good about it. If
Hmm.
O'Keefe is in our system and he has to step in, I feel good about that. Um Harporty, I'm not so sure. Oh, we'll see. We'll
I
see.
like what I saw from him. I don't know if it translates yet, but it everything he's good at seems
Mhm.
to be translatable. You know what I mean? It's not like we're utilizing him as a scoring option, as a guy to feed or go through. I mean, so that's why I feel like he's transferable if need be, because it's really about activity, rim running, um, defense. Even the other rookie we got, like I think he's translatable. The young guy, 18-year-old. I think he may take a longer time. You
Is
know
that
his name?
color?
The French kid,
Oh, Daddy A.
Daddy. Even him, like what he does, what I seen from him of what he does is transferable into the league if you need him in a pinch. You know what I mean? It's not like we're gonna be relying on any of these guys to feed them the ball and go get a bucket or really put them on the best guy on the other team and lock them down.
Right.
It's really about just coming in and eating up some minutes and not being a liability. So I think all these, and then the potential of where they can go um down the line. But yeah, I think we're deep. We're deep in the back end of the rotation too. You know what I mean? The third stringers, the guys even fighting for roster spots, I think are more than capable of filling roles. So I think that's a great, you know what I mean, a great stance. It's like I said a few years ago when you got draft picks that you could bring in but not rely on them, that's a change for us. You know what I mean? Like we were looking at draft picks a couple years ago, like, all right, we need this guy and he could come in and start and then da, da, da. You know what I mean? Like it's such a luxury to be able to say, all right, oh, he fits our system, he fits, you know what I mean, like a need, and we could bring him along slowly. It's not like we need him immediately in the rotation. He could watch and learn. He could redshirt and learn. Like that's a luxury that we have not been in for a long time.
That usually is reserved for contenders.
Right.
We are contenders now. Hello.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, that's his name. But yeah, I think we could end on that, man. Sorry for the technical difficulties in the chat, but appreciate my panel holding it down for me. You know what I mean? And anything you back on what Thursday this week, Queen?
Thursday, 9 o'clock. The weekly show, Dope Soul Sports Talk.
Yes. I don't even know what my schedule is because I've been traveling and moving around the past couple of days. But if I'm available, I will definitely jump in there. If not, I'll see you next week on a double header.
Yep.
Nick's takes on your lunch break. And what's the how you phrase it? What's the other phrase you use, Queen?
What, lunchtime live?
Lunchtime lives. So
Lunchtime live. The Queen got some bars.
the EP coming soon. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's it, man. We out of here. Shout out to the chat. Yo, Black, it's time. Shout out to my panel, Queen Shuttle. Appreciate y'all as always.
Of course.
Till next time, man. The season's soon. Season's coming. It'll be here before we know it.
We
Can't wait. Yeah, we out of here. Peace.